Hello, we are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another personal consultation webinar. These are so fun. I'm Diana with Semrush. It's awesome to meet all of you. So I want you first, though, to say hi. I want everyone to say hi to David Sace. He is in the chat, so say hi to David. He's going to be answering your questions in the live chat during the webinar, so don't hold back. Challenge David. He knows what he's talking about. Here in the webinar, we have an incredible guest today with over a decade's experience in pretty much everything. She's covered tech SEO, keyword research, content strategy, link building, international, local SEO. Her profile on the Semrush site uses the term all-arounder, and I love that because I think that perfectly sums up her experience and her talent. So please welcome Natalie Mott. Hi, Natalie.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. So I was really curious because I've followed you for a few years now too. I wanted to know, what is it about SEO that you really enjoy?
Really sort of getting to the bottom of problems, just digging into, I love a good tech audit. I love finding the things that are holding a site back. I still really enjoy keyword research. I think that's something that people underestimate and don't prioritize as much as they should do. I love discovering what makes the audience tick, and I love all of it, really. I also like that it's still an ever changing discipline, and you never know everything about it. There's always something to learn, so that keeps me motivated and on my toes. I still absolutely love it.
Great answer. Yeah, I've always been such a big fan of keyword research too, because I love understanding like how people's minds are thinking about things, and that can like understanding the consumer behavior from that perspective. I've always thought it was super fascinating too. Very cool. So also in the webinar room, we have some incredible marketers ready to pick Natalie's brain. So please welcome Albert, Leslie, Magdalena, Mustafa, and Robbie. Friends, let's give a quick introduction of yourselves, and we will start with Mustafa. Just tell us something quick about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mustafa. I'm working as a technical SEO at Presect in Sweden, and I came to SEO world from a pure technical background. So I was a software engineer, and I got fascinated about the technical SEO and Google algorithms, and I fell in love with it. So I am in it, I think, forever. That's me.
All right, and Leslie? Oh, Leslie, you're muted.
Sorry, the host muted me. Anyway, hi. My name is Leslie. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been working in marketing for Everblue for a little over 10 years, so excited to talk today.
Awesome. I'm an East Coaster myself. And Albert, go ahead. How about you?
Hey, Dan. Okay. Okay.
Good stuff. All
Okay,
right.
okay.
Go ahead if you want to say something quick about yourself.
Yeah, I am from India. So I have around 11 years of experience in SEO. So
11 years.
For general insurance.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Magdalena, how are you?
Hello, everyone. So I'm from Wrocław, Poland. I'm CEO of Max Tractor Agency. It's marketing and PR agency. Also, I'm a blogger. I'm writing about agriculture machines. And that would be all. I'm impressed how many people from so many countries we welcome today. So really excited about our meeting today.
Yes, I have a background with agricultural machinery too from a previous life. That's so funny.
we have to talk later.
We'll talk later about the fascinating world of agricultural machinery. Okay, and Robbie, you're up. Oh, Robbie, you're muted too. The phrase of the
Can you hear me now?
times. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm from Texas, and I've been in the healthcare field for probably about 20 years. And so I've been launching during this pandemic. I usually do outside marketing, but during the pandemic, I was launched into websites. So it's been fun figuring out, like you said, Natalie, the tools that make the audience click and, you know, what they like to see, what they don't like to see. And So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for including me.
Absolutely. I'm a Texas girl now too. So I said I was from the East Coast earlier, but I moved from the East Coast to Texas during the pandemic. So nice to meet a fellow Texan.
All right.
Okay. So now the real fun gets to begin. So this is how it's going to work. Each marketer will have 10 minutes to ask Natalie some questions. I am keeping the track of the time. That's why I keep looking down at my phone. And I don't want to be rude because I know we're going to have some really cool conversations today, but it's my job and I will interrupt if we're getting close to our time. So don't think me rude if I interrupt or cut you off, but we got to stay on track today, okay? All right, if we are ready to go, I'm going to say, Mustafa, you're up first.
Oh, thanks, Diana. Hi, Natalie. First, I'm super grateful for Semrush and Diana and Anton and everyone behind the scene. Like, I'm super grateful for that. And Natalie, my first question is about the faceted URLs that's coming from the faceted navigation. So what's your take on that? Do you recommend to partially index some of these faceted URLs, or do you recommend to do a full edit and do like to group them into what exactly we should index and what we shouldn't index on these URLs? Because there are like plenty of pages out there.
Yes. So in your case, I have had a quick look at your site before this session. I would say that there's definitely going to be some faceted URLs in there that would be useful to open up to search engines. So can we talk about your site specifically on?
Yeah, sure.
So it's the Swedish name for price spy, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it
Preset? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the parent company. So yeah, so massive site with so many things it's relevant for. It's a marketplace website. It's like an e-commerce site on steroids, really. There's so much going on. There definitely seem to be some sort of subdivisions of the main categories that would be worth opening up to search engines. But at the same time, there's going to be some facets in there that are only really useful for somebody refining what they're looking for on a site itself. And, you know, you can go too far the other way with opening up the faceted nav sometimes. So it is important to put some rules in place, you know, but based on how people are searching. It's quite a vague answer. So I am saying yes, do open up some of your faceted nav, but there would need to be research in place to identify exactly which facets to open up and which ones to keep no index, essentially.
I see, but what initially the rules or like the investigation you will like you will look at the URLs. So are you going to group the URLs by which pages are getting high traffic and which pages are getting low traffic, and this low traffic pages you are going to no index that, or like what's your take on that?
I would probably do it all based on keyword research, and even knowing that would be quite a mammoth task for a site that size. You can probably get a sense of the kinds of things you would open up by doing that on a parent category level basis. So I'm just trying to refresh my memory on the categories that are there, but you know, on a entertainment, electronics, all of those things, I think you could get a sense from just reviewing those parent categories and to get an initial view of the kinds of facets that the sort of different modifiers that would be attached to. I'm sorry, something just switched on that shouldn't have. You'll be able to get an idea of the kinds of refinements, the kinds of things they're asking about those parent categories, and you might be able to then take learnings from those to then apply to subcategories. If you wanted to do it a bit quicker than a full-blown keyword research project on a site that size, it's probably going to take months. But I know
that. Cool. I will do that. I never actually looked at the keyword research related to the pages. My next question is about the value of optimizing for Google image search. So if I need to do to propose to the tech team that, hey guys, we need to do optimization for all the images on our website, that will require a lot of time and a lot of cost, like internally. So how to find the value of optimizing the Google image search? I went through all the guidelines that Google are putting out there, but honestly, I can't figure out how to actually get the value in terms of revenue, for example, how much money we'll get from that. So how do you justify Google image search optimization?
I'm not going to say it depends. I have to, but I mean,
the first one. Okay.
in the context of this one, because there's other questions, there's other queries you have around stakeholder management and proving the worth of certain things, other things in your organization. It feels like coming straight in with proving the worth of image search almost it isn't the thing I try to do first, but that you asking how I would prove the worth of image search. I'm just saying in the context of all the problems that you're having, I'd probably deprioritize it. But in terms of proving the worth of image search in general, there are ways to tag image search, and I think one of the problems you were having was differentiating between the clicks that are coming from the 10 blue links, the main SERP and image search. There are ways to differentiate that in Search Console, and if it's not clear in there, there are ways to tag up your images to track the kind of traffic you're getting from image search at the moment, and that's probably where I'd start.
Okay, I will look into that. I only can get like the number of clicks on Search Console, like by filtering this one. But like I want to deep dive a little bit if I can relate this to the revenue actually, or the quality of these clicks. How many of these clicks are bouncing? So I have no idea actually how to find this.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to think of a real world example where we have done this. There are ways to tag it through Tag Manager or Event Tracking to get that data, to use custom dimensions or something to get a way to differentiate it within Google Analytics. I think this is something that you probably need a specific solution to be built.
I will try to search on that, because honestly, I never know that, so I will try to research about this direction. Okay, yeah. I will get that. But next question is related to the URL structure. So like I hear like Google is speaking so many times about having semantic URLs, have good URL structure, but actually some teams, like even when I'm working with different domains or different teams, sometimes they have SEO phobia from updating URL structure, and it have actually side effects on the whole organic traffic that's coming there. So first of all, how to justify the value of updating the URL structure from URLs with parameters to a semantic URL?
Again, I think in your situation, it's quite tricky because the site's already performing very well. It's probably the same kind of problems that SEOs at Amazon face or at eBay. You know, the file paths are not 100% semantically optimized, but the argument I reckon that somebody who's not in SEO would be like, well, why do we need to? We're already ranking. Why, you know, kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I see the sort of pushback that you might get as an SEO on this kind of site. I think the answer comes with something else you asked about, which was A/B testing. You take a subset of URLs, you know, relatively risk-free for the people that don't necessarily see the value in it, but also there might be a sweet spot of risk-free, but also there's opportunity from what you can see in terms of keyword research, and use that subset of URLs to test it. I think that's the only way in a situation where you can't make the argument, well, we're not performing and this is one optimization that we haven't done yet, so we might as well try it. It's a lot easier to get buy-in when you're not doing so well than when, you know, all you're pushing for is growth. That's the way I'd approach it if I was in that position anyway.
I got that. Okay, thank you so much for that. Speaking out of the A/B testing, do you have any framework for like SEO A/B testing? Because most of the time that we run A/B tests, but actually we don't get statistically significant results out there. So, and on the other side, when I'm trying to do sequential tests, sometimes the tech team always on fire. So I can't hold their horses actually to not to work. So I'm always on this debate: is this value actually, is it coming from the technical SEO improvements, or is it just like from the tech team? So how to attribute the sequential test if I'm running SEO sequential test, and actually if you have any framework for A/B testing to run successful SEO A/B testing experiments.
I will say that because everything, I don't personally tend to do a lot of A/B testing myself in SEO, usually because of the projects I pick up. A lot of them are sort of hygiene related, and the projects I pick up, people know that all the work needs to be done. So I would love to get to a stage where I am A/B testing things, but I don't personally have a framework I can share with you. I definitely can share some resources. I know some companies that are very good at the A/B testing side of things. Brain Labs have, when they acquired Distilled ODN, they have a particular A/B testing framework, a piece of software, which might be somewhere to look if it's something you have to do in order to get things to be implemented on your side. Maybe look at that. But I find the problem with SEO A/B testing is that none of our changes ever occur in a vacuum. It's quite difficult to get a clean test with SEO, because especially on large sites when things are always changing, it's really quite difficult to pinpoint this was the thing that resulted in this uplift. So it's not straightforward, but hopefully that resource, and I can send some other resources on after the call if that will help.
All right, and to wrap up, fantastic conversation to kickstart this webinar. We are at 10 minutes for Mustafa, so we're going to have to put it up there. That was so interesting. E-com is such a fascinating facet of SEO, and oh, so complicated. So those were awesome questions. All right, Leslie, you are up next.
Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Leslie.
So my main question, well, one of my main questions, our website is on an established domain. Everbluetraining.com has been there for several years. We just launched a new website in January 2020 to WordPress from a very old Drupal version. And despite very conscious efforts to build the site with speed and the latest SEO optimization skills in mind, our Google organic traffic just continues to decrease month over month. And so that was not, our intention. Of course, we thought all these massive upgrades would improve everything. So can you speak a little bit to why that could be occurring?
Yes, I have a hypothesis as to exactly why this has happened on your site. But for anyone who might have similar questions about what causes decreases month on month, there are a few things to check, just for people's benefit. Firstly, decreases month on month may sometimes be purely down to seasonality and purely down to some of your keywords being searched for less at certain times of year. And that's probably the first thing. If somebody says something about month on month performance, the first thing I would check would be if it's a seasonal decline, which I did, and it's not. The other thing to note is that SEO, particularly like the external environment, there's something really major going on. As we all know, there is something that is affecting an awful lot of industries, an awful lot of businesses, and user behavior. So a pandemic is quite an extreme thing that in the external environment that will change user behavior. But from any marketers who've been through marketing college will know, it's important to understand if there's any external factors that might be changing how people search. So checking that as well. But in your case, I genuinely think it's something to do with not all of your previous URLs being redirected appropriately. There's some legacy URLs. All of the previous structure seems to have been redirected to their new location on the new site, but all of the previous locations before that are 404ing, or things are going through major redirect chains. And so that means if you do your redirects, in order to ensure that all the link equity passes through, it should be a one-to-one redirect. It's very common in migrations that maybe an HTTP version of the URL and goes to the HTTPS version and then goes to a new location, or something's had a file name attached to it before and it goes to the new one, every step along the way, it loses a little bit of link equity. So that's where I'd start with ensuring that your redirects are in place.
That totally makes sense, because we have changed the website from a .edu to a .com, HTTPS, that totally makes sense. The other question I had was that it looks like our blog pages get a lot of traffic, a handful of the same blogs continue to get a lot of traffic every day, but they have extremely high bounce rate. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, clearly people are A, finding this blog and B, interested in the topic, but why are they bouncing?
Generally speaking, blog posts tend to have a higher bounce rate because if you think about a query that you may be answering through a blog post, if it's a how-to or, you know, what is, it's usually got a finite answer. And usually the person, like if it's a recipe, for example, it won't be in your case, but the piece of content really has a shelf life. Somebody's answered that question. So if the question was how to boil an egg, I know that's not your industry. You read it, you've digested it, you know how to do it, you bounce off the page. There's it's in order to get people to reduce the bounce rate. If that's an important metric, I would make the recommendation to create content around blog titles that might have a little bit more sticky intent. So I haven't really looked into keyword research for your site, but it's around training, learning certain things. It will be kind of queries that have follow-up questions attached to them, and you can suggest sort of similar articles. That would be one way to keep them on your site. If, you know, try and ensure that once they've read the first one, there's something else they'd be interested in, and as soon as they click that, then they've not bounced. Usual advice around calls to action, ensuring that, you know, that the content is well written, and at every point that somebody might want to consider your service, make sure there is a call to action in there. So my advice would be to sort of examine the keywords that your blog posts are ranking for, and if there's any in there that have sort of more of a sort of staying power, kind of sticky intent, you know, try and prioritize optimizing those articles further. But just initially try and get a sense if the content that you know and the service you're offering ever has that sticky intent. You might always have quite a high bounce rate with your blog posts. I don't think. In some cases that can't massively be cured, but I think you can reduce it, certainly. Okay, that's good to know. Similar to the concept of having related articles together, our previous website used to have like an introductory series of pages, like 8 pages that would more or less explain like why you should be interested in our product, not even like sales oriented pages, just generally speaking about this industry, why you should be interested. And then by the end of those 8 pages, we'd kind of already sold them on the product. So when they finally made it to the product, they were ready to buy. And what I'm seeing now, and even before we switched over to the new website, people stopped reading those pages. And I feel like they just want to go straight to the product page. And I'm trying to decide, well, should I cram all of that, you know, 8 pages worth of helpful, tangential, interesting stuff onto the product page, or is there another way of packaging that information? Do you have any thoughts on that? I was trying to find an example of that sort of page, what sort of it's that with introductory content. If it's about acquiring traffic from search engines, people really will mostly be searching for the individual names of courses, or I imagine. I'm just trying to get. Oh, okay. So
yeah,
like
kind of been our experience.
Sorry,
yes. Well, yeah, that's kind of been our experience. I feel like right out of the gate, they want to know like, how much does it cost? How long does it take? And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of want to justify our price by explaining why this is so important and really selling them on the aspects of it rather than just giving you this number out of context, you know? Yeah, no, I definitely think there is a place for these from an SEO standpoint. I definitely think there should be a sort of an individual page on solar training courses before it goes into the individual different levels. Something definitely on cybersecurity courses, leadership training. There should definitely be a sort of a higher level page, because those are going to be the most highly searched for terms. Right. If people are not, perhaps cumulatively, all of the long tail phrases that the individual courses are relevant for, perhaps those will drive more traffic overall. But I think if somebody is quite early on in their search, you know, they want leadership training, these are not as specialized, but you know, if they want cybersecurity training, for example, that's quite, we were all encouraged to take that up as a career in the UK last year,
But we, yeah, I would have never known what a CISA certification was. I probably searched for cybersecurity courses before searching for an individual certification. But you're going to have people from different audiences, the ones that are much more informed and the ones that are higher up in the funnel. So I think definitely both pages are useful.
Okay. Another thing I'll ask is, I heard somewhere that, I mean, obviously Google wants you to update your website fairly frequently with like new content and everything, but one SEO vendor once told me that Google was so specific that they wanted you to update it like the exact time, the exact day, on a very regular frequency, so Google would know like Wednesday at 2 o'clock I'm going to crawl the website. Like, is there any validity to that?
No.
Okay, so that's easy.
No, this question is such a common misconception and something that gets asked a lot about, oh, I heard that Google values freshness, so that means I should update my blog every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, if you've got something to say, if there's a clear content opportunity available from your keyword research or from what you know about your audience, you know you're going to be able to help someone with that content, then absolutely blog as regularly and as frequently as you need to. But if it's literally, oh, I need to blog because I was told it was good for SEO, and then that blog is just filler, or you know, it isn't in line with how the audience is searching, it's not going to improve things really in terms of Google crawling and indexing your site. It comes from a very long ago update now, the caffeine update, which was about speed, valuing speed and freshness. But
Right.
Google's main priority is about quality of content. You'll hear the acronym EAT, expertise, authority, and trust. Those are the things to be focusing on rather than volume and frequency of content.
Okay.
Great. That's a great stopping point. So that's our 10 minutes, Leslie. Sorry.
You're good. Thank you.
No, so I used to have a client, since we're on this topic, I used to have a client who heard the same thing about freshness and was so focused on it. He would replace all of the optimized content on his homepage every single day. So there was like he was wondering why he could never gain like momentum or traction in the search engines. And I was like, because Google thinks you're changing all the time. Like there's the validity and consistency too. And then Leslie, to your first question too, I worked with a lot of sites that also went through redesigns. And during that conversation with a client, we would always kind of preface and say, there might be a little bit of a dip after the redesign because Google has to recrawl and get to know you and kind of validate the fact that you've just done a redesign and nothing major has changed. So they kind of go through like this little get to know you again phase. And that was very common in the industries I worked with back in my agency days too. So I just wanted to let you know, like, yes, the redirects, but then also sometimes it's like kind of a natural thing. So, all right, on that note, Albert, you are up when you've got 10 minutes, buddy.
Hi, Albert.
Okay. Hi, Natalie.
Hello.
Okay, so my question is about the December 2020 core update. So actually, till December 2nd, we were ranking at the first position. We were enjoying the first position for the high traffic site search volume keyword. So from December 3rd, this December 2020 core update hit us very severely. Okay, from after that, we started ranking between 3 to 7. So what could be the possible reason for this? Or is it related to EAT or page speed or mobile experience?
Yeah. So in your situation, it's a can we talk about the vertical? Are you happy for me to talk about the market?
Yeah, it's India. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Sorry. The industry.
Industry is the insurance industry. Yeah.
Insurance. Yeah. So it's car insurance. Possibly one of the most competitive spaces, certainly in the UK. It is one of the most competitive verticals I've ever worked in. It's dominated by 4 key players who just sort of possibly rotate every core update, to be honest. But you know, it's heavily dominated by the comparison sites, ones that are huge brands, huge marketing budgets. They've got the whole thing sewn up. But the way they differentiate from each other is usually with page speed. Of all the industries I work, it's probably the one industry that really is all over ensuring its pages are as fast and as strong in user experience as they can be. Every major player in the UK has a mobile or a desktop page speed. Certainly the last time I checked and I was involved with it, they will always have a page speed of over 90. There's no room for a slightly lower page speed in that vertical. It needs to be as good as it can be. So assuming the situation for Google is the same in India, that's probably one of the first places I'd start, ensuring that page speed has been fully taken into account on your site. I think there's still a couple of speed issues there that may need to be resolved. And you asked another question about mobile friendliness.
Yes.
That the product pages are not responsive, and the car insurance page is one of the product pages. Yeah. Absolutely critical.
So our product page is not completely responsive. And the thing is, it will be detectable based on the device type. So if it is in a mobile, so it will automatically adopt the mobile device template.
Yeah.
In this case, Google might think our page is not mobile friendly.
Yeah, Google is definitely not picking those up as mobile friendly, and the main issue that's there is that the text is too small to read on mobile, and the clickable elements are too close together. So taking those two, they're pretty much a user experience issue. It definitely needs to be resolved. It's quite encouraging that your site still competes on page one for that really core generic of car insurance with an mobile unfriendly website. It means that all is not lost. And I think if those technical things can be resolved, I would say you've got a really good chance of reclaiming the position you're in, because obviously the content has been quite well trusted previously. Yeah. It's extremely long form, pretty much answers any question you might have about car insurance. I would say the thing that is holding you back is technical.
Yeah. So what we understood this core update is we analyzed every day the competitors' results. So we find out scale of 1 to 10 positions, no one is enjoying the first positions continuously. So for example, one of my competitors for 5 days is in the first position, and another day another competitor. So all these people are enjoying the first 3 positions. So this is what happening. So this could be the reason, because I thought this could be the mobile friendliness, or could be the reason for EAT. Or so what do you think EAT can play in this ranking problem?
The thing is, with any of the things that needed, I typically would always try and address the technical things first, then go on to content, and then go on to links. I'd say trying to improve the content on a page that isn't as accessible to search engines as it could be is sort of, it's not going to reach its full potential. Even if it's the best content in the world, at some point that technical issue is going to go into, sort of drag it down. So I always try and get the technical in order first before moving on to content. Assuming that your technical was all in order, yes, adhering to the principles of, expertise, authority, and trust will definitely stand you in good stead. But it's sort of, the site has, an injury. It's sort of, trying to get it to exercise. If it was a person, trying to get it to exercise when they had a sprained ankle or something, it's not optimal. It's probably not the best place to spend your time. To deal with the things that are wrong first, and then tweak the things because the content is very good. I genuinely think that your site has ranked well, or that page has ranked well off the back of the strength of its content alone, up until this point where that user experience issue has been flagged by this algorithm update. That would be my hypothesis.
Okay, Natalie, one final question. So is keyword cannibalization can affect the entire site ranking?
can keyword cannibalization affect the entire site ranking? I mean, not really. It is all on a page by page basis, I guess. I'm just trying to think of a situation, like, potentially if I really, there's no such thing as a sort of site-wide penalty for duplicate content. There is a myth of a duplicate content penalty. The only way that keyword cannibalization might be able to affect your site at scale would be if you had 2 versions of the car insurance, but 5 versions of the car insurance page, 5 versions of the bike insurance, 5, yes, then possibly you might have a scale issue. Usually it's on a page by page basis.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, great questions, Albert. Thank you so much. And I commented in the live chat too, Natalie. I just love your thought process on dealing with the technical first and then content and then backlinks. So that just makes so much sense when you're dealing with fixing issues or even coming at it from like starting from scratch kind of a perspective, like to make sure the technical is done right, because that's also one of the trickier areas to go back and adjust sometimes, so just tackle that first and then you can improve your content and then you can get those quality backlinks. Really cool. All right, Magdalena, you are up for your 10 minutes.
Thanks. So I would like to think our case is special, but it's not. It's just something new for us because this is National Museum and we started working on this website recently. This is well positioned right now because it's, again, National Museum. But my question is if it's possible for you, as it's in Polish, to help me understand what can be done, because nothing has been done so far, but still website is ranked quite well. So maybe you have your insights, what can be done better or what can be done from the scratch.
So in general, I didn't have the chance to review much of your site before this, but I can talk to you about the experience I've had on museum sites and attractions websites in the past. Typically, yes, you will rank well for your brand name, and that's the main traffic that you're going to get through to your site. So, definitely ensure all the technical work is done to ensure that you don't drop off for your brand name. It's kind of rare that would happen. The only thing that would mean that you dropped off your brand name these days would be, that there's something technically wrong with your website. So then the next opportunity is trying to build the non-brand traffic. So it's the National Museum, but probably the logical next step, if I were in the UK, for example, I would want to then go, so we rank for British Museum, for example. What else can we do? Looking for, the first thing would be things to do in London, attractions in London, museums and galleries in London, sort of looking for the things that people would search for, but they're not yet aware of your museum. They may all be aware of your museum, but, to ensure that the museum is in their consideration stage if they're looking for a day out. And then, I mean, it's a National Museum, so it's all about history. There'd be a third layer of opportunity there for you talking about, creating content about the specific exhibits, the specific periods in history you cover, the expertise of the curators. There should be loads and loads to say, but I'd sort of approach it in those kind of 3 levels. Ensuring you can always be found for how people search for your brand, ensuring you're always there for consideration, and then ensuring that you show up in as many places for the subject matter that your museum covers.
Yeah, I'm totally aware that my question, could take 2 hours, not 10 minutes. But as we're talking about keywords, I'm wondering, because museum has obviously a unique offer, let's say, right? It is something that may apply to many companies. So should we focus more on, I partly know the answer, but I prefer to hear it from you. Should we more focus on what's unique for the museum, or rather to focus on what is so popular and, may lead people to us?
Probably both. Let me just get your site up because I'm talking about it in the abstract and I need to make sure I know which what the specialism is. So it's an art museum. Oh, it's the National Museum and an art gallery.
Yeah, this is National Museum in Poznań, one of the Poland city. So one of national museums, because we have a couple.
Yeah. No, I would probably be inclined to dial up both, to dial up the focus on the things that you specialize in and try to do as much to make the site relevant for generally being considered in people's days out and tourism. I wouldn't prioritize one over the other. If you needed to, if budget was an issue and you needed to focus on one or the other, I'd let the keyword research decide. And then I imagine, well, keyword research, you'd have to look at it in terms of volume and in terms of sort of competition and difficulty, which route is going to be the one that will allow us to gain traffic faster. But the keyword research will give you an idea of which strategy to take.
Sure. So in the past, and I'm wondering if it's still so important, we recommend to our clients to have blogs on their website for SEO and not only, but mainly, to be honest. Do you think it's still so important, especially for such institution like museum, to have a blog? Because we don't have it right now. There are just some articles about what's new and general information. So do you think it's really worth to start a blog on such a website?
Usually I would say yes, and it would depend on, I think there should definitely be an area of the site that talks about the things that the exhibitions, events and events pages can't cover. So on a museum site, I wouldn't call it something as, I wouldn't say it was a blog. It should be sort of an insights hub, a real rich resource about the things that the museum covers. So I'm just trying to get an example. The short answer is yes, but always it's same as what I was saying to Leslie about the Everblue site. There should be a reason. It shouldn't just be we need a blog because we need a blog. The content opportunities will present themselves in the keyword research, and if you find that those keywords can't be adequately represented by content within the exhibitions or events pages, that's probably going to be a signal that there needs to be a different content repository that covers those kind of queries. So it's very likely that a blog would be useful, yeah.
That's a great insight, and thank you for that. And speaking about general question, but I cannot compare this website to any other. What do you think is the bounce rate that should be worrying if it comes to main page?
The home page?
Yeah. Is there, do we have any frame for that? Or is it a very specific metric for every single page?
I would say, and this is just a guess, I'd say most people coming to your site will be in market for what you offer. They know who your museum, they know your museum, they know what they're coming to. Usually the kind of search term they're using is a navigational search term. They'll type in the name of your museum, they'll find your website. If they're bouncing frequently there's going to be a problem. I would say that your bounce rate shouldn't, there's an arbitrary number, but it shouldn't be higher than 50%, really, because it should be doing its job. And arguably, you might want to drive that as low as possible, but it certainly shouldn't be high.
Okay, so my last question would be, because again, I'm trying to get to know this industry as much as I can. Do you think that such a thing like National Museum requires different approach that another company that cares about conversion and so on?
Yes, because I mean, yes and no. the principles of SEO remain the same, but it's I'd say your priority. I mean, your priority probably should be conversions. It would be about getting people to book.
Now we're starting selling tickets at the end of January. We start selling tickets through the website. It hadn't been done before, so in the past, it wasn't such a thing like conversion to website. It just was. It's supposed to be a trigger to visit the institution, but there will be a quite clear metric, because we want to make people go to buy or book a ticket button. But I'm still thinking, because in my opinion it's quite fragile, because it's national museum, it's not like private company. That's why I'm trying to think which approach is the best here.
Yeah, I used to be responsible for the SEO for a major museum in London that still, all of its ticket sales, although they were able to sell tickets to their exhibitions through their site, most of its ticket sales were face-to-face. I think you might have a unique opportunity at the moment to drive more ticket sales through the website than you might normally, if your situation with the pandemic is the same as it is in the UK.
Yeah, right now it's the same like everywhere.
Yeah, so I probably maximize this opportunity as much as possible when people, people trying to prepare for when they can visit the museum again. But I would, it's tricky. You're asking what's more important in this case, just driving people for awareness or driving for conversion. Again, I'd say they're probably equally important with a museum. So with the museum I used to work with, an awful lot of it was about making people aware of the sort of the short-term events that we're running, and then making them aware of the collections that have been there for years, and then driving them to a shop, and just keeping the brand front of mind. There were multiple facets to the strategy, and there wasn't the short-term events were the highest priority, because that was going to be the big revenue. But they were all being managed at the same time.
Yeah, everything is important. Long story short, everything is important here. So yeah, that's why I'm aware my question, they were basic, but they are very important for me. So I'm very grateful I could hear your thoughts on it. And I think my time is over, right?
It is, yes. You had perfect timing. Okay. It's like you had a countdown clock in your head. What an interesting industry, the museum industry. That isn't one that we often hear talked about very often. And I think that's just so fascinating. So thank you for coming today and talking about it. That was really interesting. Okay, and now is Robbie, who's going to close the show for us today.
Well, thank you. I feel like we're on the Brady Bunch. Everybody should look up and to the side. Nice to meet you, Natalie. Thank you for including me. Let's see, I had a few questions, but as I was listening to everyone, I was thinking of all these other questions. But the first one is, okay, I was told by Semrush that my site wasn't crawlable. So I had to figure out how to put the robot information on there to make it crawlable. So I did that, but then I went back and it still says some pages aren't crawlable. And so I don't know if there's any more information you have on that, or if it's just a continuing technical issue. And just for some background, we launched a new website in October off of our old website. And so we've been kind of revamping the technical issues that we were talking about before as well.
Sure. So I checked this. I don't have access to. Actually, I think I did run an audit in Semrush to try and in Semrush to get sight of the same error you're seeing. I have been able to crawl the site using other tools, so I feel this must just be a bug.
Okay.
I would, if you've already reached out to the Semrush tech team, they should surely be able to resolve it for you. But in the meantime, do you have Search Console access?
Yes, I do.
So that would be something to sort of double check whether it is a bug or not. If when you place any of your URLs into Search Console, if it says it's crawlable, it is. Okay. And I just feel that it was just a bug. There must be just a glitch in the machine there.
There's also a quick way you can switch like which bots in Semrush tool can crawl your site. So when you're setting up the audit, just switch, like there's a drop-down menu. So just try one, it's labeled Googlebot. So just try that and see if the issues still persist, but there's that option too.
Great. The next one I had was about paid search versus organic. So when you look and your report says it's paid, is that a good equal to equal as far as what is actually paid, or is that a trend kind of idea, or does it mean that's, so for instance, you look on your graph and it says you have 8 paid and 10 organic. Does that actually mean, like, so the 8 people that came to your site at that moment were from paid search?
I was trying to find the part of the Semrush platform that you were referring to, the report that you were taking is that from the domain overview.
And there shows it shows the paid, the search, the direct. It has like 5 different things on there. I didn't quite understand what all the, and then the difference between paid search and organic. That's kind of confusing as well.
Okay, no, that's all fine. So yes, it is referring to traffic via SEO and traffic versus traffic via Google Ads, or it's definitely Google Ads, Google's paid search results. It is an estimate. It's a very good estimate, but it is the best source of this information for you will still be your Google Analytics account. It will be the exact representation of how much organic and paid traffic you're receiving. Semrush is able to estimate what kind of paid traffic you're receiving based on its index of all Google Ads that have run, and in the same way it's able to estimate the kind of organic traffic you get. But it's not 100% correct. The 100% correct result will be in your Google Analytics data.
It is possible to sync your Google Analytics with Semrush too.
There you go.
Get that data a little bit more accurate. But I love Natalie's explanation that, like, I want to record that for other when we get, because we get that question a lot, obviously. But yeah, if you sync up Google Analytics with Semrush, then you get all the data all in one tool, and it adds to that.
Yes, I do have them all synced together. The next one is, what actions would you recommend to catch the next highest ranking competitor listed on the competitive position? So when I pull up competitive positions, it has like 5 people and I'm number 3. How do I catch number 4? I mean, what would be the best tactic to say? I mean, there could be a million ways, I guess, but I don't know what would be the best.
So again, if we're talking about, so that is a different result than I was getting yesterday.
Hopefully we're better.
I wonder if I was looking at totally the wrong site. ScoliosisInstitute.com.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, it must have been looking in a different country. So you're number 3-ish, and then the next one on the competitive positioning map is tryoutspine.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I prepared an answer based on the wrong data, but the points may still stand.
Okay.
I was under the impression that you were probably only about 100 keywords away from the nearest competitor. Mm-hmm. And the approach I was going to say, I'd say focus on content, try to plug the gaps, try to work out what that competitor is ranking for that you're not, and create content for it to get closer there. In this situation, there's a bit of a bigger gap, but not really in terms of the estimated traffic, actually.
Yeah, we're kind of low, so it's not a ton of traffic that we're trying to rank for, but we're only a third through on our content that we have now, is getting it all up to par. So, that may help as we follow through that. The one frustrating thing is every time you update it, updates your whole page list of what you were working on. So you can have to start from scratch. But in general, so you're basically saying check out your competitor, see what they're ranking for, see what you're missing, and add that content.
Yeah, so there's a gap analysis tool within Semrush that will help you do that fairly swiftly to identify the things that they're ranking for and you're not, or that your ranking is weak for and theirs isn't. That's definitely a place to start. And then there will be things that they rank for. The one thing to say about the competitive positioning is that there's not always, the context is not always there. So it may be that, they might have a whole other It feels like they do. If there's about spinal conditions in general, and your specialism is in scoliosis,
Right.
they may have more things they can be more relevant for, or you may be able to be creating content about the other spinal conditions as supplementary content. But you'll need to make a judgment on whether you can and should be ranking for the things your competitor is ranking for, or if you even want to. There might be things that are completely irrelevant.
So then pick a different person, a different competitor, and do the gap analysis for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
There may also be opportunities with SERP features, especially in a medical industry where you can have that authority. And so you're able to analyze what keywords are triggering certain SERP features for your competitors too. So there may be some opportunities there as well.
Okay. The next one is how do you get a manageable to-do list? Say for like 1 hour a month, where do you start at? Because there's so many things to do. What I understand you said technical earlier. So would you say, okay, an hour a day for a month, I'm going to work on technical. And then once I get past that to the point where I'm happy, then move on to the next.
Yes, usually. It does sort of depend on where the immediate opportunities are, though. So you may have some on-page things to rectify that are a higher priority than some of the technical things. So I wouldn't always sort of go all the technical things first, finish all the technical things, and then move on to the on-page. If there's some content-related things you could be working on, because if you're creating some content, sometimes it can take a while for Google to index it and understand it. I'd probably want to be working on the on-page alongside the technical on your site. The other cases were quite clear. There's some technical things we need to address first and foremost before we even think, the content is fine. Don't really worry about it until we've resolved the technical. But I think there's a lot of content opportunity on your site, and I'd try and manage both of those in tandem.
Okay, that's fair.
So in terms of easily collating a manageable to-do list, definitely the Semrush site audit will, I keep saying that, I am sorry, Semrush.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah. You know what you're talking about.
It's a hard habit for all of us.
Okay. The site audit will help you do that. Some really, in terms of the volume of the errors that are attached to certain things in the site audit, will give you an idea of how to prioritize them. Okay. But then in terms of other, just in general, the things I think will usually move the needle the most for you would be keywords in page titles, keywords within
page titles.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do your keyword research, understand what makes the audience tick and all of the things that your audience is searching for. Map those keywords to your page titles and your on-page copy, and your H1. Slightly less important than the copy and the page title, but still important. Internal linking is very important, and then just general technical health. That just if the issue with the crawling, for example, was happening everywhere and you really weren't indexed, that would obviously be the first thing to address. Okay. So yeah, I hope that helps as a starting point.
Absolutely. One for the keywords, what I've seen is you pick one keyword per page, but then your page ranks for other keywords. So where does that stop? Or is there a good idea to say, okay, 5 keywords per page, or how's that work?
It's less about it being one keyword per page and more about one keyword group, one topic, okay. One sort of discrete
word group. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk at the moment in the industry about clustering, keyword clustering, and there are some tools being developed by loads of clever people in the industry to try and speed up that that grouping process in keyword research, because anyone who's been doing this for ages knows that the bucketing of keywords, that evaluation we have to do to say which keywords match with each other, it can be long and arduous. So there are tools being developed to sort of take the legwork out of that, which I can share some resources after the call if that's helpful.
Oh, great.
But also, I'm saying that that's helpful for people who are doing keyword research day in, day out for loads and loads of brands, and it is this sort of churning, really kind of repetitive task. I'd say for an in-house marketing manager, I think it would be quite rewarding to be doing the manual keyword research to really get under the skin of what the keyword data set looks like and understand the grouping. I don't think it would be a waste of time to do it the manual way if you're working on one brand.
So I assigned one keyword per page, but then I'm realizing that it's ranking for more than that keyword. So that's kind of why I was asking, should I go down that route or not? And the only other question I had was speed and website size, if that matters. Because our speed went down just a tad, and we added like 50 pages. So now we went from 50 pages to 100, and now our speed went down just a tad. So I don't know if that has any. We've optimized it to death. We've got the picture small. We've got everything that I can see as far as that. So I didn't know if you had any other recommendations for that.
I wouldn't say the size of the site would be slowing the page speed down.
Okay.
There are a few facets to your question. Page speed is absolutely critical and will become even more critical. There is a scheduled Google update for later in the year around the subject of what they call core web vitals, and they're 3 speed and user experience related metrics. Up until now, we have an understanding that page speed is a ranking factor, or at least user experience, the general
together, right,
is a ranking factor. But Google have absolutely confirmed that come May, those core web vitals, the things that they are measuring in Search Console, will definitely be a ranking factor. So page speed, absolutely crucial.
So 4 seconds or less, basically.
Yeah, much at 3 seconds or less.
3 seconds, okay.
All right. Whew. Well, thank you, Robbie. And I wanted to hit on just one other thing around keyword research too. Make sure part of that clustering is looking for questions that you can answer in the copy as well, and using, there's a way to look for the most, Googled questions around your seed keyword within Semrush, and then kind of answer like those commonly asked questions in the copy, just to help build up that authority, help provide that user experience for the information people are, seeking and stuff like that. So I've found that tool really helpful in content creation myself. So I just wanted to share that nugget before we wrap up this amazing conversation. That was amazing. Such terrific conversations today. Great conversations happening in the chat too. Thank you guys for that. I learned so much myself. Oh my gosh, that's why I love these things. Like the industries you guys come from and the things that come up are just fascinating. So I want to thank you guys, our marketers, Albert, Leslie, Magdalena, Mustafa, and Robbie for being here. Thank you to all of you who tuned in and asked questions in the chat. Thank you, David, for being in the chat. And the biggest thank you of all to Miss Natalie for being here and incredible and providing all of your pro tips and your insights. So thank you guys. This was awesome. We will be doing more. So keep watch on the Semrush webinar page and in our Twitter. We announce it and promote it all the time in our Twitter feed too. Part of my job. And so from all of us here at Semrush, we hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.